You are listening to Off Color, a podcast where 1.5 Black people and James talk about race and help you learn how to talk about race and racism, hopefully. I'm Rebecca Henderson. I'm the 0.5.
I'm Dr. Gregory Diggs, 1.0.
I'm James.
And this is Off Color. All right, so I think we all know what's coming next week.
What's coming next week?
It's Thanksgiving.
That's about the size of everyone's feelings about it.
No, I think that, Thanksgiving is a time for us to get together and be with our families and our friends. And I think that when we're thinking about it, it's for most people, it is a positive experience. I know it is for me personally. Like, I enjoy a Thanksgiving dinner with my family a lot. I always have. We always did Black Thanksgiving when I was growing up and a White Christmas, essentially. So we go.
Wow, Black Thanksgiving and White Christmas.
Yeah. So we would go to my dad's family for Thanksgiving, and we would eat, kind of standard soul food, collard greens and cornbread and sweet potato pie, and there'd be a ham and a turkey, that kind of thing. And so, I have very warm feelings associated with Thanksgiving, but I know that that is maybe not the case for a lot of people. And I think that with what's been going on in the past year, I think people are worried about maybe having dinner with that old racist uncle, perhaps. Yeah. I think that maybe that's like a concern for people.
The timing of it is rough too. Thanksgiving always being like 2 weeks after election day.
Sure,
it's like guaranteed to be, because it's like on your mind. If it was in May or something, then maybe at least you could process some stuff. But it's like you wake up one morning and Trump is president, and 10 days later you got to eat your grandma's green beans and like have like a conversation.
Yeah. And I think it happens on multiple dimensions. I mean, we've been doing this podcast, or we're going to be doing this podcast, and we've been talking in the community about race relations, and I think that'll be some of the flavor of what we talk about tonight. And though, the politics is also another layer, whether no matter what the diversity or lack of diversity in terms of race is, you've got political diversity. And then don't even talk about the gender issues that are coming up with the Me Too stuff. And so what do you do now? It's Thanksgiving. Your family is coming together, and there might be some diversity of opinion and approach and stuff, and it might not necessarily occur in harmony, especially if you are agitated to advocate for yourself and others. And it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
And that's what we're looking to talk about today.
On this very special episode, it's our Thanksgiving special with Off Color. Can I do it just that one time?
Yeah, no, that was fine. That was acceptable radio voice, I think.
So some of this has been on my mind. I know we had talked about this with the comedian Shanae Ross, who's on an upcoming episode. Shanae!
Okay, Shanae.
But I had a strong Thanksgiving incident where I uninvited someone to my Thanksgiving dinner because I was concerned that this person was going to say something offensive to my family. And so I avoided the problem. Right? I just uninvited her.
Sure.
And ruined our friendship.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I still feel badly about it on one hand, but on the other hand, I feel like if we just keep squashing it down when people are saying stuff to us, we're never going to be able to make any progress.
And I hear you, and in thinking about that and hearing it again today, I want to say that in my particular family, my African American family, we have a tradition on both sides of the family. You control what happens in your own house. Okay, so if the action is happening in your house, you get to orchestrate that, and it goes how you want it to go.
Yeah.
Some of the action depends on where you are and who you're with. But if you're in your own house, I feel like you should feel empowered to control the action.
And if you don't want to get uninvited from somebody's Thanksgiving, don't project yourself as a person who other people have to worry is going to say some racist shit at the Thanksgiving table. So there's some, certainly the other person has to have some ownership, I think, of that situation.
Well, and it was hot too because the election had just happened, and I knew that her husband had voted for third-party candidate, and
Which one? That's important.
I don't know. I'm not gonna know. But to me, that made me furious because at the time I was like, hey, you want to do a protest vote? Now's not the time.
Sure.
And I just felt like it was
and
still
look what happened.
Well,
right.
yeah, and I felt like it was still this rhetoric of like, well, they're both equally bad.
Right.
So you're like, not in my house.
Yeah, I just didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
Sure.
And we had
But you
enough
sound like
stress.
you're feeling guilty about it.
I do feel guilty about it. I do. And I'm sad because I want to be a better person. And that is part of why I'm even like
Why do you think that's
in
being a
this.
bad person?
I think
to
sometimes
control potential upset in your house.
I just think sometimes I think we come from a place where we're like, well, we're liberals and we know this and we know that. And I feel like I have a really hard time seeing things from other people's perspectives. And especially when they're not bad people.
Sure.
They're not, you know what I mean? They're not. But they're ignorant. And part of the problem when people are ignorant is when they hear you say they're ignorant, they take it so hard. Like you're calling them stupid and you're not. You're just saying like, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. And I want to be able to have more patience and more, I don't know, something. I feel like I do want to try to like bridge somehow. And
I think that, so for me, for example, I have friends who are African centered. And I mean like militant African centered. Like fuck the white people, the white devils, kind of thing. And that's not necessarily my perspective, but, I engage in that stuff and I have friends who subscribe to that stuff. But if I'm going to have a mixed crowd in my house, I know that I've got to be careful about who I bring into the space. Not because there's something wrong with any particular position, but I know that's going to be a conflict that's going to be difficult to control when you put certain elements together.
And then that's the thing, it's your friends. Because in this case, this was a friend,
right.
not family. And so that's where I think it gets tricky for a lot of people, or some people at least, and I think maybe some people who are listening to this are thinking like, ooh, I got to have, dinner with... I feel like we're always calling someone's uncle racist.
Yeah, it's
like
always the uncle, isn't it?
We're always
in my experience, it's just as often your aunt.
Yeah.
So,
or it can be the naive white person because again, for me, I have to decide. Am I having a people of color gathering, or am I having a mixed gathering, or am I having a white gathering that has some people of color in it? Because if I'm having a people of color gathering, there's certain white people that I'm not going to invite, not because I don't like them, but because there's too much explaining to do, and there's too much, the people are going to get their feelings because they don't know how we get down and how we talk. And it's not that I have anything, but I just know for a holiday gathering, for a family gathering, I just want to have a family gathering. Sure. I don't want to work. I don't want to work at negotiating all the potential stuff.
Sure.
I just, sometimes I'll do that at work, but at home, I just want to be with the people and let's have a nice thing.
I have a question for James.
Okay.
All right.
I wanted to know, I don't know you that well, but I know that you have kind of talked a little bit about your upbringing and your family, and I'm just wondering, is this something that happens at your Thanksgiving dinner, or like, do you have this kind of tension?
Good question.
Because you and your wife are pretty liberal, outspoken type people, and so I'm just wondering, has that come up?
Yeah, so it's it's an issue. We haven't really had big family holidays in a few years because
your relatives are all racist.
Because we had kids and we moved far away, and so that just makes it economically not doable. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if the familial situations were a little less stressful, then maybe we would be more inclined to like make it work. But historically, growing up in times that were much less contentious than what we're in now, yeah, I mean, that was the stereotypical thing, was that Thanksgiving was like a nightmare. From a pretty young age, like I had, like, I don't know, my politics were sort of solidified fairly young. I was really into art and really into comedy and really into music and really into just constantly hearing these very liberal or progressive or outright radical opinions. And that stuff really put me in that space from, middle school. And so, it was difficult from the beginning. And so I had a cousin who's just a few years older than me. And we would sort of band together at these Thanksgiving dinners. But what's funny is that it was actually a lot less, we're going to get in a fight about politics. And it was a lot more, why are they bringing this up? It was so tiresome. We're talking Clinton years. We're talking, my dad's side of the family, most of the men in the family are just like full on Bill haters, Hillary haters. They believe that they murdered Vince Foster, and they believe that there's, a pile of dead bodies trailing the Clinton presidency. I have an uncle who, has a copy of the Star Report when they published it, like in hard copy. I'm sure that he's never cracked the spine on it, but it was like there for show, like the family Bible or whatever. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I experienced. And I do think that my experience is maybe a little different from the typical sort of middle-class white liberal or whatever, in that I grew up in a very, very working class, not well off, not well-educated white family. And so the sort of Trump voter that a lot of white liberals only know in theory, those are the people that I grew up around.
So how did you navigate that? Of course, you're younger, right, and such. But how did you negotiate that?
Well, we were like a white Northeast family, so it was primarily through avoidance.
I get it.
That was kind of our key coping mechanism. A lot of distance. It was hard. I don't look back on it feeling great about how I dealt with it. I was largely, a teen and early 20s at the time. I could never really win because the conversation was always presented as, wait till you get married.
Right.
Wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
Wait till you own a home.
Yeah.
Wait till you have a career. Wait till you have a 401k.
Yeah.
I have all those things now. And I'm more radical than I was when I was a teenager.
Gotcha.
So,
right
but
on.
the thing is that was like always the conversation was always just like, oh, well, you don't know because you're not like there yet.
Yeah.
And, now I totally use this when I call Republican senators' offices or whatever. I'm happy to weaponize that I am a middle-class, white, straight dad who owns a house and has like a public service job, because these are all these boxes that progressives are not supposed to be able to tick.
Right.
You're not supposed to be any of these things.
Right.
And so being able to be that and coming into the conversation, that is kind of where I try to take it on the occasions that I find myself in these conversations. I try to kind of meet them in the place that they're not really ready to go against, because they have an image of who a liberal is that they've created in their mind.
As you're saying this, though, I'm sitting here thinking, God, I just wish I could have like the confidence of a white man. And I'm a pretty confident person, I think. Sometimes it's all a facade, but I just feel like all those things you said, I feel like you could easily like engage in a very uncomfortable conversation with your family, whereas I knew I couldn't engage with those friends. Right. I knew I would just get so mad or whatever. And I feel like it's so hot to me. And I think a lot of people who are maybe progressives and liberals who are going to have Thanksgiving dinner with their sister's family that's not, or whatever. Like, I think that is coming, that's where they're coming at. They're like, well, how am I going to, like, get through this meal? What can I do?
Right.
I don't know. It's just something that I really struggle with, and I think I cannot possibly be alone in that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that growing up, if I'm on either side of my family and they're African American, we really didn't have there were two levels. We didn't have a whole lot of different conflict. And then even if there was sort of conflict, there was a hierarchy in terms of elders versus, those who were not elders. And so we didn't challenge the elders, but you just kind of sat there and looked at each other and kind of, and so we didn't have something that was going to blow up, the occasion. Mm-hmm. Now, when I got married, because I married into a white family, there was a lot of difference.
Well, it wasn't just a white family. It was a
RLDS family.
Wait, what's RLDS?
So the LDS, Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons, the RLDS are Reformed Latter-day Saints. So they split off from the Mormons, but they're still part of the Latter-day Saints tradition.
Okay.
Very, very conservative on all kinds of levels. And then it was about, okay, so how are we going to navigate that? A difference, though, is that my extended family, even if they didn't know, they were interested in knowing. Mm-hmm. They were interested in learning. So, for example, when I go to Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner with my in-laws, when I was married, it was a trip because I would have to study, because my mother-in-law would have spent 7 months checking out 4 books a week from the library, and 2 of them being about African American history and African American culture. And then she'll say, like, well, Gregory, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I know. So I had to start studying.
Yeah.
But I can say now, looking back over 25 years, I can see how that family has moved substantially from very, very, very conservative. And some of them might listen to this, so I don't want to mischaracterize, but I can say that at least they were way less conservative than they used to be. Mm-hmm. And I would actually argue that some are, in fact, pretty liberal. It is possible, even with upset. It's about, if you have upset, how do you move through it? Mm-hmm. Because you might have to say, you can't come back. You can do that over there, but you can't come to my space. A question is, 3 years later, what is your relationship with that person? Did they just stay away and you stay away? Or was that a catalyst for everybody moving forward? I don't know.
Well, I thought it was a catalyst for moving forward in our friendship and helping her understand my perspective. And it turned out it wasn't. Okay. So I feel like that friendship is essentially over. And that makes me feel sad.
Sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If a new situation came up, how does your that experience you just talked about, how does that inform how you would approach a new situation?
Well, I wouldn't have wrote a public blog entry about it and put it on Facebook.
Well, there you go. Well,
now you're podcasting about it, so let's see. Let's see how that plays out.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're all learning here.
Right.
We're all learning.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It sounds to me like, I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you how you feel about this, but when you're describing it, it doesn't sound to me like what you're really talking about is guilt. It's just sad.
Yeah.
And sometimes the situation is just sad. I mean, it is sad that you felt you couldn't invite her to your home. That's sad all around. I mean, that should be sad. But sometimes shit is just sad. I mean, if you're, you would be sad too if you were just keeping the peace and just feeling anxious throughout the whole Thanksgiving that something was going to be said or something was going to happen. I mean, that's sad too. And that, it reminds me a little bit of I was watching a video. I'm reading and watching a lot of Ta-Nehisi Coates right now because I took out his last 2 books from the library. And there was a clip that was going around recently. He retweeted it himself that someone had posted where he was doing a talk at a college, and a girl got up and asked about the conversation around white people using the N-word. And the girl who asked the question was like a young liberal college student. She wasn't seeking permission to use it, but she was trying to get a sense of what kind of arguments she could use when trying to explain to people why they should not. And it was a really, really unique, interesting perspective on it that I think relates to this a little bit, which is he was basically saying, it's really complex. It's really hard to wrap your head around.
Right.
Why can you do this? Why can't I do this? It's really complicated. But what he was saying was all social interaction is complicated.
That's right.
Yeah.
And why do we deny that basic truth of human interaction only to Black people in this situation?
Absolutely.
We all acknowledge that our relationships with our family are complicated. We have to balance desires and issues. And at work, we have to wear certain personalities, whatever. Why is it so hard for white people to grasp that this one word in the language is regulated by social convention? That's basically the conversation. And he said, that what it ultimately comes out of is entitlement. Your acculturation when you're a white person in the West is that you have access to everything. And that doesn't make you even a bad person. It's just that's really what you grow up with, is that everything should be yours. The democratization of information and conversation and everything ultimately means that you have access to everything.
That's right.
And understanding that you don't is very difficult.
Right.
And so the negotiation you're talking about, as far as I hear it, is basically this idea that you're struggling with the fact that you denied this person access to your home as if they somehow had a right to it. But they sort of revoked their right to it by creating a circumstance where it was going to be uncomfortable for you.
Right.
Yeah. But I invited her.
Sure.
Well, but you changed your mind.
Well, yeah.
And don't you have
You can
the
withdraw
right
an invitation
to change your mind.
things change.
They did.
Well, what would be your ideal? This doesn't have to be a whole episode about this one incident with this one person, but I think that it does kind of coalesce around what we're talking about with this holiday and with these interactions. If you could go back and be your more ideal, more calm self, what would be different? Could it be handled differently in a way where you could see that your concerns are heard, your family's not exposed to anything hurtful during Thanksgiving, and you still have this friend and she's less
Okay, well, ignorant? I have to say that even as you're saying it to me, I'm thinking, like, even if I had told her privately before, if I had said to her, hey, you've said like a bunch of offensive things in my house and I kind of like let it slide, but in light of this, I can't have you come to my Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Was that not what you said? How did you disinvite her? I don't think we got to that.
I posted a blog about it on Facebook.
Okay.
And she read it and she realized it was her, and you
didn't name her, but she recognized it, right?
But she recognized herself.
I'm seeing maybe a little more of the discomfort in that.
Yeah, no, that was fucked up. I own that.
Sure.
But again, it was the day after Donald Trump got elected.
Sure.
I was so upset that day. And a couple of things happened. One, I woke up and thanked God that my kid came out white. Mm-hmm. That was a disgusting feeling for me. Mm-hmm. I was really upset about it. I was crying. The next thing that happened, I felt freaked out.
Sure.
Like I went to the local restaurant and I felt like everyone was looking at me. And I felt like they were like, they don't know I'm black. They think I'm like a Mexican or something. But like, I felt scared, And then I was like, I'm not done. I'm on a rant. And so like, I went in there and I'm wearing a fucking bright red tracksuit. And my kid is wearing a matching red tracksuit. My little baby who's adorable. So, maybe people are looking at that. But then my neighbor was in there and he didn't say anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like maybe he didn't see me, but
Sure.
I'm like, how did he not see me in that outfit?
Sure.
And then the people at the table next to me joined hands and started praying over their food. And I had like a fearful moment. That is something I would never have even been on my radar before.
Right.
So here's something I'm going to say that is pretty technical.
So that's why I did it.
Well, here's something that I think people don't generally understand, and we don't even understand ourselves and with each other. And you're stimulating me to say this, is that this whole thing about subordination and oppression is really rooted in trauma, okay? And we spend, as people of color and difference, a lot of times walking through life and denying our trauma. But sometimes something happens and we are triggered and all of our trauma comes up. Mm-hmm. And it hurts my feelings, even hearing your story, and I see it with others, is that even as we are experiencing rage and trauma, we then kick ourselves because we're apologetic for being upset about being traumatized. Mm-hmm. And that's an upsetting dynamic of all of this, is because we have the burden of dealing with that and we suppress it emotionally. And when it comes up, when we can't take it anymore, we process it as, well, fuck, something's wrong with me. Yeah, no, something's wrong with society. Mm-hmm. And it's actually quite amazing that we sign up for this and deal with this and invite it into our house. And so I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way, but I do think if we make a decision to say, you know what, on this day, I'm not having this in my house.
Sure.
You know, it's just hard to not apologize for that. Harbor the guilt of its hurting feelings of the people that we exclude. Mm-hmm. Because part of the dynamic is if you include them, your fear is they're going to hurt the feelings of the other people that you love. And you're like, you know what? On this day, I'm not going to deal with that. And you can't apologize. I say you got to work on not apologizing about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to take a little break. Just want to give a special thanks to our friends at Go Play Denver, where you can find fun things to do around town, and a bunch of it is free. Okay, some things cost money, but check it out if you're looking for something to do with your relatives that are visiting. And maybe you want to break the tension, so go to www.goplaydenver.com and check out some awesome activities. So now we need to talk about maybe some real life situations or potential real life situations that could be coming up for people. Maybe you're listening to this, right? What do we do when somebody says, do you have any advice for people, like when someone says something that or is in a situation, and I actually do have a real situation, a question that someone sent me. And would you be willing to maybe to talk about it?
And we should say we put up on our Twitter account at offcolorpod. We put out a call for people to let us know if they had examples of these situations. So check us out and follow us at offcolorpod. There will be questions like that, and you could be featured on future episodes.
That's right. So last year, just after Thanksgiving and the election, my very conservative, wealthy uncle kindly agreed to drive my partner and I to the airport. So giving a little random context here, my partner and I have a farm, and we had lost a full-grown pig to a predator, maybe a bear, and my uncle had offered us a family heirloom working shotgun that he had no need for. Mm-hmm. That's just... Mm-hmm. On the car ride, he was asking if we had used it yet to practice shooting or had any further problems with predators. The fastest route from his house to the airport was through Washington Heights, which is in the South Bronx. And we stopped at a red light at a corner in the South Bronx at dusk, where some young black guys were just hanging out, and my uncle made sure the doors were locked on his fancy car before turning to us and saying, "Sure wish we had that shotgun now." So she was very shocked. This is all in the message that I got. But, and she says, I was aghast. I knew he and his wife alone of that side of the family voted for Trump and held beliefs on taxes and small government that I considered inhumane and ridiculous. And I equated a vote for Trump as evidence of condoning racism, sexism, xenophobia. But I had no idea that he truly held those beliefs, that he is racist. I looked at him with my mouth open before saying, "Those guys are just regular people like you and me." I think about that conversation a lot, and I should have said a whole lot more to educate him and call him out, but I wasn't brave or articulate enough then. So I felt a little bit of pain myself reading that, actually, because it's like I can think of so many times where I didn't say anything, or when people said things and I like let it go. And I guess, I mean, what could you have done in that situation? What could you have said? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think I do. One thing I will say before I make a couple of comments is that I think that's where we are in terms of trying to talk to each other, is that we are confronted by situations and scenarios that are so shocking that we are speechless. And it's hard to prepare for that depth of sort of discomfort. And so that's one thing. Another thing I will say is that, maybe one of the things that we need to start doing, all over the place, is actually imagining scenarios and what ifs, and practicing, how would we respond if this kind of thing came up in a certain way. But I'm going to tell you that even if you do that, people are in places that we just don't expect, and it's so shocking that we are speechless. So here are two different approaches. The first one is to not invoke your own outrage and response, but your first engagement is to get more information about where your person is coming from and have them tell you more about what that means for them, okay? And as they are talking, you can be listening, and in that talk, you may find opportunities for engagement, okay? Another level of that, so what I'm saying is ask them to tell you more about what that means for them, and
so in this case, she could have said, "Hey,
tell me more about why
do you think we need a shotgun right now?"
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as you are listening, or you can engage in this way as an initial response. Another pat question I would use is, so what makes you think it's okay for you to make that kind of statement about people? So with these two kinds of approaches, it's really about either getting more information about where they're coming from, or having them defend or say more about what their position is. And when you ask it in question form, it's a different kind of confrontation. It's like you need to justify to me, where you're coming from and why you think it's okay for you to just do it that way. And even in the moment, as they're talking, it gives you time to take a breath, to listen, and to make a decision about when and where you enter confronting or not confronting the situation. Now, that's my civilized way, you know.
Now the approach that you're actually listening for.
I don't know, you know, and we'll see how I do it because it's still going to be partially civilized. But you know, there's circumstances where you hear stuff like that, and I'll just speak for myself, but I'm like, motherfucker, please.
Yeah, I feel like, but that's
You know,
my...
what, we're gonna lock the doors on your mama. We're gonna lock the doors on your grandmama. You know, so I in my mind, I'm like, I'm a flip the script kind of person. It's like, okay, you got that. Well, I got something for you. And how do you feel? How would you feel if this situation was reversed? You got the same. You got the same thing for me. And there's no script for that. But I'm just talking about an attitude. It's like, shit, you know, you need to back the fuck up. I'm going to fuck you up rhetorically, you know, and we're going to examine this shit with you on the other side of it. Yeah. You know, so it just is a matter of, you know, what the relationship is, what you're trying to get out of it, what capacity you think the other person has for growth in that, or shit. It's like, I'm not taking that shit no more. Yeah. You know, you have just disrespected me, or you've said something disrespectful, you know, in terms of my experience and ideology and the people that I associate with. And rather than me feeling like I've got to defend this and justify this, no, I'm going to put it on you. Defend yourself.
In the interest of if this person is listening right now, I think that everybody has the, what do they call it, the elevator moment after a confrontation. Everybody feels later that they didn't express themselves the way that they wanted to. They regret how it came off. Now, this person doesn't mention how he responded to what was said about their people just like you and me. But, you know, it might not be the biggest mic drop moment ever, but I mean, I like what they said. I mean, I think, like, to me, that seems like a very honest, genuine response. It's a very, maybe it's not verbally aggressive in the way that Dr. Diggs is talking about, but I think if you're a person with any sense of self at all, you're going to be shamed by somebody saying that to you, especially if it's your niece or your nephew. You're supposed to be the elder and you're supposed to be the wise person in the room, and they have to look at you and talk to you like you're a preschooler and explain to you that people are people and these people are just like you. I think that's actually a very, I think that cuts to the heart of essentially what the conversation is about. I mean, I think the fact that something was said, the fact that you didn't just sit in shocked silence, the fact that you made it clear that it wasn't all right, and you didn't come with, because I don't know if in that situation, the person asking this question is white, in case that wasn't obvious from all the context. So, you know, you're in a situation where someone's doing you a favor. That person is your elder and your relative. You're maybe limited in how appropriate or useful it would be for you to come back with rage. I think to come back with a genuine, open-hearted shock of just like, holy shit, what the fuck are you talking about? Is like, I mean, I like that. I think, like, you know, it's good to win an argument and it's good to stand the other person down, and sometimes you have to do that. But sometimes if you can't do that, I think if you can open up your heart and the thing in your heart is like, holy shit, what an ugly thing you just said. What an ugly moment that was.
Yeah, expose it. And so, but I have mixed feelings about that. So the way I think about it is you have options. And so I agree with what you said, and that's why I led a certain way. And though, I'm going to say this. Part of the burden of people of color and difference is that whether it's intended or not, you know, when people make these kinds of statements, it is hurtful and offensive and oppressive.
Sure.
And these kinds of thoughts have consequences on our people. And so I do agree that you want to choose what's the best approach. But here's the thing, but it's an extra burden to be nice,
sure,
and respectful and facilitative. And I'm going to tell you that the people that I work with and talk to have no more fucks to give
sure,
about the feelings and sensibilities and the reluctance to disrupt the peace.
right.
And so what I'm saying, it's a both and kind of thing. You've got a lot of options along the spectrum,
right?
But I do want to voice that because of the urgency of the consequences that some people are living through, at some point, if you are like, fuck that shit,
sure,
I'm blowing it up, in the moment you got to blow it up.
Of course.
Yeah. If you want, and not be apologetic for it, because I'm going to tell you that even when you blow it up, the world doesn't end.
Of course.
The world doesn't end. In fact, the growth is how do we come back from that conflict? We've got to stop being afraid of disrupting the peace. We must disrupt the peace sometimes. Not all the time.
Maybe not on Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Well, but just think about this. 10 years later, 10 years later, people will be saying, remember that blown up Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
That might be a watershed moment. And I'm not encouraging that. But I'm just saying sometimes.
You're not discouraging.
No, I'm just saying, hey, what I'm saying is what it is.
Sure.
It do what it do.
Right.
And we don't know what the outcome is, but I'm going to say this. Our peaceful, let's everybody get along thing, it has not been working.
Sure. Well, what I mean is more, I get the sense from the way the question was asked that, so I think you have to be who you are. I mean, and if you respond with anger, I mean, this goes back to what Rebecca was saying earlier about how, she is not able to find the confidence to articulate something in a certain calm way that I might to my family if they said something. And that's clearly not couched in me being a more articulate, calmer person or something. That's the distance of the fact that they're not talking about me. And I mean, that's
right.
And to me, if the person asking this question is a white person and we're having a conversation about what can white people do in these situations, sometimes, as I said before, you can, weaponize your privilege in that situation, and you can sort of be like, I can afford emotionally not to be personally defensive and angry right now because it's not about me, and maybe I can be strategic in how I'm going to have this conversation. But ultimately, I think it was more that the person asking the question seemed to be regretting that they didn't have a better thing. I guess my thing when I say that I want people to be who they are is, if you're angry about that, you deserve to be angry about it, and you have a right, and you should be. I think if you're a person who responds to things less in anger, I don't think you should feel that you failed to have the conversation that you needed to have.
Right.
I think that if your natural place that you go is that more empathic, open place, then I think you should live in that. And that
well, I think that is an excellent option. What I want to say, because I had this feeling the first time you said this, and I'm letting you know I'm going to use what you just said in some of my work. I love the weaponizing concept. I'm thinking of it on two levels, right? I'm thinking when you're a person of color and difference and you have these experiences, part of what we've been living with is we don't weaponize it. We try to negotiate that stuff. But I think we're at a time where one of the choices we can have is to say, hey, I have this experience, I have this knowledge, and I'm going to weaponize it against oppression.
Right.
Another level of it is, and this I didn't use this as a term, but this is some of the stuff I've been working on, is is weaponizing white privilege. And what I mean by that is we have this expectation that as we have these conversations in mixed company, we're supposed to be polite and we're supposed to take care of other people's feelings, and such that even just using the term racism, even just using the term white privilege, even just using the term white tears or white supremacy, somehow people are like, oh, you can't say that. But those are the appropriate terms. And I think we should weaponize them. Because white privilege has been weaponized, even passively. It's a passive aggressive thing.
Sure.
But they have been weaponized for 400 or more years against people of color and difference. And we have refused, in the face of that oppression, to take up our own weapons. And I think that there's some strength, because Martin Luther King actually did this kind of thing. You use the words and the principles of the dominant culture and reflect it back.
Sure.
And say, this is what that is. And we cannot be ashamed of putting up our shields and mirrors as weapons. They may be passive weapons. We might not be throwing spears and shooting guns, but we need to have an attitude of, if you are going to attack us, we're going to reflect that back on you. And we are not going to be apologetic about it.
So even though you're saying that, I cannot stop thinking about, specific situations in my personal life where I have, in a sense, I feel like, because, I'm mixed, right? I'm half black, I'm half white. People think it's easier to talk to me, in some ways, and I feel a certain obligation, I think, to speak out, because I am able to maneuver in spaces in ways that other people cannot.
Right.
And at any time when I try to call people out for stuff, I get shut down. And I get told I need to watch what I say when all I'm saying is the truth. How do we work within that?
So there's no one answer to that. But what you're saying is real. And so what I say to people, and I didn't make what I'm about to say, I didn't make this up either. I've learned this. It's rooted in education, what we call practice theory. And that is, we have to operate both within and against the existing structures, right? And so, sometimes we can do it against, but if I'm at work, there's only so much against I can do if I'm trying to keep my job.
Yes.
Right? Right? Sure. And so the game is, though, if you want to play a game with it, is how far can I go being subtle and tricky and, around the way and get my point across without losing my job, right? And that's not even and listen, it's
so true though.
Well, but it's true in a micro sense, but a macro sense, because you might think that you can lose one job.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that your reputation follows you to other jobs, right? And so again, once you have your house, once you have a child, and you are responsible for, providing a living, that limits what you can actually say, right? And so the dance is this whole concept in my mind of within and against, right? You've got to play within the system, but then how do you still advocate and work against it to make a better place for people who are coming in with you, or your children who are going to be coming in after you? And so I say that to say that that's not an answer for every specific situation, but I offer that as a way of thinking. If our ancestors were slaves, well, you want to overthrow the master, but, there's only so much you can do, right?
Right.
But even with there's only so much we do. We've got traditions that come out of that. Negro spirituals, work songs. We've got all kinds of traditions that have been, handed down. That's part of the resistance against the oppression that we could not overturn. And you got to survive to next Thanksgiving.
Now, the real question. James, what kind of pie do you eat on Thanksgiving?
I like an apple, just a straight apple.
There you go. Good answer.
I wouldn't say that apple is my favorite pie generally. I kind of like pie's a little too wholesome. There's too much like real food in it. I like gross, creamy, mushy dessert. I love like banana cream pudding, like that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
That's got like 1 banana and 17 pounds of cream in it, whatever.
Okay.
But I feel like for fall, you need some like cinnamon and spices and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think like a cake with some fruit. And I think apple is where you got to go.
That's a good answer. I'm going to ask the same question differently. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie?
Oh, so this is going to be... All right. So now we're getting... I got to tell you, I've been wondering when I was going to say something on this podcast that would get me in trouble. And I think this is it. I don't really like either of them.
There you go. Good answer.
I don't like food that doesn't really taste like anything, and it's just a carrier for the spice. So whenever people talk about pumpkin spice, there's no pumpkin spice. Pumpkin doesn't taste like anything. You're just talking about what you're referring to are the spices that you put in pumpkin, but you could put that in something that tastes better,
like coffee.
So
right? I'm at Starbucks and I got pumpkin spice latte and stuff. Right.
So I'm always a little when someone asks me about like pumpkin pie, I'm like, why don't you take those exact spices, put them on some delicious juicy apples, and let's cut the bullshit and eat a good pie.
What an answer!
That's my point of view. What's your pie?
So my pie is sweet potato pie, just because that's my. I'm African American, and on both sides of my family, that's the tradition. Pumpkin pie. What is pumpkin pie kind of thing? Although, again, now I'm, middle-aged, so my childhood experience is not my only experience. And so, because I have mixed family, I also do pumpkin pie. And actually, I actually am okay with both. And matter of fact, if I'm in a mixed setting, I'll take a slice of pumpkin pie. I'll take a slice of sweet potato pie.
That's just the metaphor for the whole thing, right there.
And we can all get along. We can all get along. See, that's another thing. I don't want white folks cooking my collard greens.
Well,
What
there's
about
no danger of me cooking your collard greens. So.
what about half white people? Because you ate Thanksgiving dinner at my house last year, Dr.
Well,
Day.
and it was all good.
And it was a white collard green because my mom.
Well, but it had a little flavor.
It did, but my mom, she cooked the greens, and I cooked them how my mom cooked them. My mom was white, and she cooked them, no fat back, nothing in there, and so I have my secret recipe, and I'm not giving it away. And they're delicious, and everybody likes them.
But I'm gonna tell you a story. This is not a Thanksgiving story.
Wait, I'm not done talking about my
bad.
pie.
Yeah, do your pie.
Yeah, what's your pie?
I just love sweet potato pie. I think it is so good.
There's an answer.
But I also love pumpkin pie. I love them both the same. I literally I feel like if someone gave me 2 pies and they said you have to pick, you can only pick sweet potato or pumpkin, I feel like it would be like, what's that guy that cut the baby in half or was gonna cut the baby in half in the Bible?
Solomon.
Yeah, I feel like I would give both pies back to the pie maker because I wouldn't be able to.
And then take a good slice of apple.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's right.
So I've never been served sweet potato pie at White Thanksgiving. But I have been served. I feel like this is the white version. Is like candied yams, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that do black families do that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Some marshmallows on it.
Marshmallows.
Some people do just orange juice and apple. Some people don't do the marshmallows. I like the marshmallows, so I put marshmallows on it.
It goes different.
Yeah, but there are some variations, of course. And like my family's tradition, my cousin Ruby, hey Ruby, she always makes this amazing clam chowder, and that's just her thing, you know. Like she makes that, and it's always there. It's like ready for us to eat, you know, before things.
That's
are getting...
not part of anybody's tradition, is it? That's just
my family. Yeah, it's just something she makes. But I feel like you maybe wouldn't expect that at Black Thanksgiving.
I'm into, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, but Thanksgiving especially, I'm into people making food that they like normally. I find the whole tradition of going out of your way to cook a bunch of food you don't eat the whole rest of the year a little weird.
Yeah, but I feel like the food that I'm making for Thanksgiving, if we ate that the whole year, we'd all be dead.
That's good.
Well, maybe that's it. I guess I just think about these flavors like, who the fuck ever eats cranberry sauce?
I do. I made it last week. I'm not even kidding.
I don't.
I'm wrong then.
Only on Thanksgiving, and then I only take probably a little.
Right. I make it because it tastes good.
My family does My family does the. You get the GABA cranberry sauce that's still shaped like the can.
See, right. It look got the ridges and everything.
Yeah,
right.
we used to have that too, but now that I'm fancy, you know, I make my own cranberry sauce. And it is delicious. You
could make like a hipster cranberry sauce, I bet.
Oh, wow.
You make it. Hear me out on this. You jar it in a clear, like mason jar.
Yeah.
But it's got the same ridges as a can. Ooh. And you sell it as like elevated hipster white trash cranberry sauce. You could charge $10 a jar.
I feel like you shouldn't even be saying this.
That's an industry.
And then you know where I'm getting this idea is I was just at Rosenberg's, the New York style bagel shop here in Stapleton. Delicious bagels.
Oh God, the bagels
And they
are so
have
good.
a bunch of sort of like weird, like vaguely like hipster Jewish food, basically.
Yeah.
Hipster Jewish
food. They have these. They have these boxes of matzah that are like grandma's matzah or something. They've got like a cartoon of a grandma on the front. It's about half the size of a regular box of Manischewitz matzah. It's $10 a box.
Oh my God. See? My daddy would die.
And it's not even kosher for Passover.
Wow.
Oy vey. Wow.
So I'm telling you, you could sell glass mason jars of hipster cranberry sauce for $10. So Thanksgiving. It's too late for this year, but next year.
All right, I'm gonna put that.
So
one in my
I've got a
back
story
pocket.
to tell. That's not a Thanksgiving story.
Okay,
but it's an interracial culinary story. So, so my wife is white. My daughter is born, and we're just all in love, and we're feeding her all of the just everything. You know, you move from the baby food to the solid food kind of thing. And so I love to cook black-eyed peas. Mm-hmm. Now, when black people cook black-eyed peas, you cook black-eyed peas. You know what I mean? You like cook it for a long time so that you know, the peas like melt in your mouth kind of thing, and you put all the spices and stuff. And so my daughter, before she could even fully talk, we gave her some black-eyed peas, and she loved it. And one of her first sentences was, Momo Black? Momo Black, because she wanted more black-eyed peas. Mm-hmm. Now, when I cook black-eyed peas, it's like it's like with stuff that's not necessarily healthy. And my ex-wife is a PhD in public health, so we have all been about healthy eating, and that's what we generally do. And matter of fact, I would cook that way, but every once in a while, I would throw in the flavor because when we go down home to the country on my side of the family, they're not going to have tofu and steamed vegetables and stuff, right? So my daughter loved these black-eyed peas. So the way the story goes is, you know, so I would cook it every now and then, but I went away while I was in school, I was a consultant, so I would go away for a week at a time on some trips. And my wife called me frustrated because she cooked some black-eyed peas for my daughter, and my daughter would not eat. So my wife got these frozen black-eyed peas, and she followed the instructions on the back. And it's like, you're boiling water for, 6 to 8 minutes and stuff. And it's and it's not about spices and flavor and stuff. And so when she fed this to my daughter was like, yeah, no. And so my wife is calling me upset. Like, what did you do? How did you do this? Well, number one, I cooked black eyed peas for like 2 hours.
Right.
Hey, can you bring black eyed peas for Thanksgiving?
I will bring black.
Sounds great.
I will bring black eyed peas.
Can you put no onion in it though for me?
I don't put onions in my black eyed peas.
Oh, now we are in business.
Yeah, I don't put onions in it. So I will do black eyed peas, and I think you will like my black eyed peas. But it was just a cross-cultural thing where we, my ex-wife was like, okay, she likes black eyed peas. I can fix black eyed peas. And she goes and she gets it and she follows the instructions. But yeah,
sometimes it doesn't work out like that. But see, I feel like my mom's greens were so delicious.
Well, because what you grow up with is delicious.
But I ate both. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't like I didn't. It's not like I haven't eaten a collard green.
But this is why we're having these discussions. I want you to hold my hand on this. Because the mixed experience is different from the black experience. It's different from, I'm going to hold your hand too, from the white experience. And that's why we're doing this.
Right.
Amen. Praise.
Yeah. So should we bring it home? I think that we should take a look at the tips and wrap up with that.
Okay.
Tips.
So Henderson Diggs, which is Dr. Diggs and our little consulting business to kind of help organizations have these kind of uncomfortable conversations. We have come up with just some general tips for Thanksgiving dinner. Some of this is based on a rubric that we use in our workshops, but you don't need that to understand this, okay? In fact, I am going to say we're going to post this card on our Twitter account and on our Facebook group and on our website page, okay?
All right.
But what I am going to say is I'm going to use the tips that I came up with, okay?
Okay, forget my tips.
So Dr. Diggs' tips are very okay. His tips.
No. Do your tip.
No. I'll do some of yours. I'll just do the first part, okay? For the tip, it's the T, so you remember to be thoughtful, okay? You want to be intentional. That's the I, and the P is be purposeful. All right? Thoughtful, intentional, and purposeful.
As you prepare for whatever conversations you're going to have at Thanksgiving or whatever the holiday may be.
Right. And so, my little cheat sheet on the back, though, is number 1, breathe. Science supports this, people. You take a breath.
Just breathe.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, breathe.
That's right. Ooh, Dr. Diggs, you had a lot of bourbon, Dr. Diggs. Okay. So my other tip is think. You want to think. Like, what are you trying to get out of the conversations? What do you want, and where do you stand? Make sure you're thinking, okay, this is what I have, and I want you to assess the risk, because there is a risk sometimes when it comes to your family.
Sure.
Are you willing to risk changing or ending your relationship by having this conversation? I.e., the girl who didn't say anything to her uncle or didn't take it far enough because she didn't want to do that, And that's okay. That's totally okay. But you have to know what your limits are. And then when it gets time to do it, then you engage. If you feel ready, then just start to engage in the conversation, but just breathe and think. And honestly, if all else fails, we have included a recipe for a delicious old-fashioned with rye or bourbon, your choice. All right?
Yeah. And play that according to what kind of time and space you have. If you just have to throw back a shot, like just do that.
Do the shot.
I know an old fashioned's a little involved. Maybe you're like...
It do what it do. It do what it do. Here's another thing that I learned. Someone, told me, and I think it's included on our tips, but this is for marriage, for other things. Sometimes you're going to have conflict and argument. And one of the things you have to decide sometimes is, do you want to win the argument or do you want to stay in the relationship?
I know, and I think we'll wrap it up here. And I just want to wish everyone that's listening if anyone's listening,
happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving, and tune in. This is Off Color.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Off Color.
Once again, at Off Color Pod on Twitter. Is that the Facebook as well, Off Color Pod?
It's Off Color Podcast. It's
Off Color Podcast.
Yeah.
And
we have a website too. Just call me later.
Yep.